You got rich, retired, and came back. And you wrote a book. Can you tell us a little bit about why?
Kelly and I are, and we have reached financial freedom, right? We don't have to necessarily work for the money. That is true. We've definitely done that. And that's a credit to Kelly and the strategy. What I felt like was that there was more. Like, we can do more. This message that we're sharing over the last 20 years, we've been able to help hundreds of families, but we can help thousands of families. We can make more of a difference in people's lives. We've done it already. We can do it again and again and again. And so part of it was writing that book. Part of it was just going, look, this is what we believe. This is what we've done. This is exactly our story of how we've done it at a young age, starting young, getting to this spot. I think we have what people want to have, and we're not any special. We're just regular people who have just taken a path, and what we've done, everybody could do. You could do this. So our goal was just write a story, tell it about ours in a way that people could understand and actually take action on and see how many lives could we positively impact that way.
Tell us a little bit about the book. What could somebody expect?
It's Kelly and I's life. It's the parts that went well. It's the challenges that we had. It's the realizations that I had. It's combining the fact that I am a financial advisor, a financial planner, a coach, and a leader, and a husband and a dad. And how do you do those things best? How do you combine all of those things to be as a good husband and well off financially, and a good father, and get to go on trips, and get to enjoy the kids that you have, and get to do these to build a successful retirement? How did we do it? Just starting from a young age, just having a unique perspective that this is the field that I'm in. This is what I love to do, but I'm also a dad and a father, to be able to, how do you blend those two things? And then it worked. And it's not only worked for me, it's worked for hundreds of families that we work with every single day. And then it didn't just work for my clients. We've taught other advisors how to do it, and it works for their clients too. So the message has been repeated and tested and proven time and time again.
I know you mentioned earlier that Kelly is, she's not the numbers person. And so sometimes for her, it's difficult to, say, oh man, that really sucks that we can't have this thing. But I'm curious about your kids. How do your kids feel about it growing up like this? Do they, it's normal to them, or is it difficult when they're at school with friends, things like that?
I think the difficulties are likely similar to any other child, which is the world is telling them to have these things.
And they're part of the generation that's getting marketed to you on the internet. Mm-hmm. More than us.
Absolutely. From such a young age, with cell phones, technology, all the different platforms that there are, it's definitely hard in any situation, in any parenting situation, to have those conversations. And I think for us, it's just creating a platform of transparency, creating a platform of what worked.
Do they run the system? Do your kids run the system?
To a degree, they run the exact same things. So our kids have at minimum 2 checking accounts, at minimum 2, right? One that their paychecks, because they all have jobs, one that their paychecks go into, and then 2, the second that a dollar amount will move from checking account 1 to checking account 2, and that's what they can spend their money out of. And our kids run that from 14 on. That's what they're doing. The hardest thing that I think we can do right now is actually create a more difficult financial environment and a learning environment for our children. It's easy to say, I hear so often, they should teach this in school. We hear that all the time. They should teach this in school. And the trouble is, they should teach this at home.
We had that conversation yesterday.
Right? And so what I find is that if it's not taught at home and they're not learning the value of how to organize their money when they're young, they're not going to know that answer at 25 or 30 or 35. And what we really look for with our kids is, can I get them to make mistakes? Can they make a mistake? How great is it if my child gets turned down at the mall because they don't have enough money in that account? How great would it be if my child at 18 years old, 15 years old, overdrafts their checking account. That is fantastic, right? What a great lesson for them to have. Because for me as a parent, that's a $30 conversation that I get to have. That's a $30 learning. That's a $30 educational moment that we now get to have. And I assure you, they don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to do that. They don't want to have that embarrassing moment. But if they have it once, when they're 15 years old, when they're 18 years old, that will stick with them moving forward. And as a parent, we get to have a $30, very impactful conversation. Because when they're 25, it's not a $30 mistake. It's a $3,000 mistake or a $30,000 mistake. When they're 35, it's a $300,000 mistake. Those are very difficult to write and cover. So the faster that we can get our kids to learn about money and put them through a more difficult situation than just giving them everything, I think the more learning that they're going to have, the better off they're going to be, the more mature financially they will be when they're 21, 22 years old.
And their significant others are really set up for success too.
That person that they bring into the relationship is going to appreciate that point of view.